Soundstripe.
Hello, welcome to Hawk Talk, the only podcast where you can keep up to date with everything that is happening at the Batemans Bay Footy Club. I'm your host, Joel Erickson. On the other side of the screen over there is Mick Kenny, and our special guest tonight, as you can see, or as if you're watching the video, or as you could probably see if you looked at the title of this podcast, is the women's co-vice captain Tayah Hancock. Michael, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, Joel. Very
That's
good.
good. And Tayah, how are you tonight?
I'm well, thank you, boys.
That's good. Hey, we promised a few things at the start of the year, didn't we, Mick? We promised we were going to come back bigger and better in 2025, and fingers crossed this has worked. Because if it has, we have got kind of the first big improvement in 2024. Well, it could be a downgrade as well based on people's opinions on how we look, Mick. But you're getting the.
That's why we brought Tayah on for the first one.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, like, we were thinking of doing it last week with Cam, but anyone who's seen Cam probably understands why we didn't do it last week with Cam. So, no, we love you, Cam. Yeah, the first video podcast in the history of Hawk Talk, which is pretty exciting, Mick.
Yeah, so we'll see how we go, but yeah, I think we're going to try something obviously a little bit different now with our podcast for the rest of the year, and we'll probably go fortnightly, and we'll obviously go with the video format, and yeah, sort of delve in a little bit more with our guests, and probably steer clear more of the game day stuff, and obviously still touch on that as we go. But yeah, we'll probably just delve a little bit more into our guests that we have on throughout the year.
That's right, and it's because it's the people who make the club, right? And it's the personalities. They're who we want to talk about. They're who we want to really celebrate, and so that's why we've made this change. But also, if I take you behind the scenes, Mick gave me a real dressing down the other week when I forgot to mention that he'd been best on ground in the Resi game. So, and I figured nobody really wants to listen to me list off a bunch of goal kickers each week. So that's why I've made the change. Obviously, logistically, living in different states and whatnot, fortnightly is easier for us as well. But hey, it's still going to be the same podcast. Hopefully the content will be even better now that we're focused more on our guests rather than kind of what's happening on the field. And we are excited to kind of move into this new phase of the podcast mix. So let's get cracking on this week. We will start talking a little bit about what happened on the field because it's been two big wins for the senior grade. But I wanted to talk to you, Mick, because I noticed one of the things that you have prided yourselves on in years past is being a really strong starting team. You really get the jump on teams early. Feels like that's not happening so much this year. Do you have a read on that?
Nah, not really. But yeah, probably the last 3 weeks we've come up against some pretty good opposition. Obviously, I think Yas were coming third at the time when we played them. Woden were obviously coming second when we played them, and Goulburn were coming second as well when we played them. So, yeah, I think it's probably been not such a bad thing. We've probably, I guess both teams have probably felt each other out in that first 22 minutes, or last week probably went a little bit longer, to be fair, against Goulburn. They come out pretty hard, and we had a bit of a reset at half time, and yeah, we sort of blew them away in that third quarter. We kicked 6 goals to their 0 goals in that third quarter, and that obviously is what won us the game. But yeah, the last 3 weeks have been like that, mate. It's not by choice. We're not planning for a dramatic finish or anything like that. I'd love to get the jump on teams early, that's for sure. But that's just how it sort of panned out those last 3 weeks. But really proud of the boys and how they've sort of reset after those tough first quarters, and really got the job done pretty easily in the last month, which has been great.
Yeah, look, I've obviously I've been looking at the scores, and it's been that third quarter and that the second half really is where you've kind of hit your straps in a lot of in those three recent games. Do you think it is? Do you think the team's fitter this year? Do you think it is just that kind of because there's so many new teams this year, you're kind of going through a bit of that feeling out period, as you said? What do you think is the key to those big second halves?
Yeah, I think there's a little bit to that, mate, but I think we're definitely a lot fitter side than what we were last year. It was something that when we sat down and had our meeting at the start of the year, myself and Blackers and JT and Cyril and Thaney, and it was something that we identified that we wanted to be better at. We wanted to be a lot fitter, and we wanted to be a lot better on the inside as well. And those two areas, I think, have probably been, the standout areas for us. Over the last few weeks, and there's no doubt that we've been running out games a lot better than what our opposition have. So, yeah, it's definitely been an improvement on where we were last year. That's for sure.
It kind of feels like you've set down a bit of a marker at the start of the season as probably the. Oh, we might be getting a bit ahead of ourselves here, but a bit of the team to beat. You've had pretty comfortable wins over the teams that are kind of around you at the top of the ladder. I know you've talked about the fact that you're not really a results-driven coach in the past, but must be pretty pleasing knowing that you've set a really good boundary. Sorry, a really good baseline for the rest of your season.
Yeah, it is, mate. Definitely. And I think there's been no secret. We've had a fair bit of turnover, in all three senior teams, to be fair. But yeah, we've had obviously a fair bit of turnover in our senior team, and we've just had a few young guys that have come in and filled some really good roles for us, and everyone's just doing their job at the moment. So, yeah, really happy with where we're at. But obviously, we're sort of eyeing off these next three games to get us to the bye, and if we can keep ourselves on top of the ladder and get to that bye in a really good position, then that gives us obviously a strong platform to jump off come the second half of the season.
Yeah, and you've been traditionally a team that's been very strong after the bye. I want to ask one more question before we get into the other grades. Buster Ware is basically a walking bag of goals at the moment. I think he's always been probably the best key forward in the comp. I would argue that there's probably a very strong case to be made that he might just be the best player in the comp right now. What are your thoughts on that, Mick?
Yeah, he's in some pretty good form. He's getting some pretty good delivery as well. But I think if you actually sat down and had a chat with Buster, I reckon he'd definitely give a lot of credit to a few guys in that forward line that are probably playing a lot of selfless roles for him. I know Sam Malin's one who I've played a lot of footy with Sam, and I know what he's like. He's just the type of footballer that he's never looking for self praise or anything like that, and he's happy to do the dirty work. Puts blocks on, and just happy to create a bit of space. And Harry Shannon sort of provided that as well for Busto. He's just a traditional sort of centre half forward, so he takes a lot of his ball up the ground. Which with that quick ball movement, obviously JT coming off the back. You've got Blackers, Thaney, these guys on the outside. It gives Buster, an open 50 majority of the time. So, full credit to him as well because he does. If the ball's sat on his head, he doesn't lose the contest at all either. But yeah, I definitely think that there's a lot of guys at the moment that are just playing really good team footy, and Buster's sort of reaping the benefits off the back of that as well.
Yeah, I mean he's been kicking basically 5 goals every game, which is a
Yeah, I think he's
fantastic.
averaging about 5, so
Yeah,
yeah,
that's a
it's not bad.
fantastic average. That's a fantastic average no matter what level of footy you're playing. Hey, let's bring our guest into the podcast now a bit because I want to talk about the women's team.
Yep.
And speaking of buys, you guys have had a lot of them recently, both forced and unforced. Taya, what is it? One game that you've played in the last month of footy, or you haven't played much footy recently, have you?
No, it's something ridiculous. I think we've played 2 games this season.
Yeah.
It's definitely starting to get to some of the girls. I know footy is a bit of a release for a lot of people, so we're all starting to get a bit itchy and we want to get out there. So we're very excited to play again this weekend.
Yeah. So I mean, you've touched on it, but what is the feeling among the group? I guess there's pros and cons to this, right? The pros being that you're going to be very rested. I'd imagine there's not many injuries in the group, considering you haven't played much footy. But the cons would be that I'd imagine a bit of match fitness might not be there, and you just a bit of frustration as well. So how is the group feeling?
I think as a whole, we've got a lot of new girls this season. So they've gone in from doing all the preseason games and they're all really confident and excited to get out and learn. And we sort of haven't had that opportunity for them to go do that in our normal season comp. So I think there's lots of frustration surrounding that. But on the other hand, like you said, we don't have very many injuries at the moment, which is really nice sort of for the start of the season. So hopefully we've got some big games coming up, especially with Googong and Malongolo. So everyone should be well rested, which is great. But then, like you said, the match fitness might not be there.
How is so Kim's your coach? How's Kim been kind of treating the last month or so?
Well, I'm not in the bay with the girls training. I'm with the Canberra crew. But I was down there a few weeks ago and they're sort of just making do, I guess. They just keep running game-based drills. They're working on different things each week. They're trying to target some of the things that the girls need to work on based of what he has seen of them. So they're just trying to build everyone's strengths up so then we're ready to go.
To be fair, I couldn't imagine Kim getting flustered about much. But the man is almost the walking embodiment of she'll be right. Um, now, Tayah, what's the hunger in the group like? You mentioned that there's been a lot of turnover from last year, but obviously you guys had a bit of a heartbreaking grand final as the senior boys did. Is that kind of driving you this year, or do you think there's so much turnover that that's not really a factor?
I think for some of the girls that are still there from last year, like myself, I know I always have that hunger. I've lost a few finals with the Seahawks, so I'm ready to get there and win that trophy. But our focus this year as a team isn't around that big goal. We're trying to sort of build our team and a bit more of a community in the women's team and sort of bringing the enjoyment back to footy. And it's not about winning, it's about building everyone up and getting us all there.
She's good, isn't she, Mick? She's saying all the right things.
She is. She's very good.
I
It's a
don't.
great perspective to have.
We didn't even coach her before this. This is great. Let's talk about the Rezzies as well. Obviously, we'd spoken a little bit about their struggles at the start of the season. Mick, how have they been going the last couple of weeks?
We had obviously a lot better performance against Woden, and yeah, we probably should have won that game as well. Now, so there's a couple that have probably got away from us in the twos. I think we probably should have won that Cooma game, and yeah, we probably should have won that game against Woden the other week. We had a good lead at half time, and yeah, just let it slip in that last quarter. And then yeah, sort of going into the Rezzies had the bye last week as well. So going into this week against Molonglo, they're pretty handy in the twos. Probably not so much in the seniors, but their twos are pretty competitive. So yeah, I don't know what we're looking like in team makeup and stuff like that. Obviously, Cam will do his ring around, and it's that time of the week.
I'm assuming Cam won't know until Saturday morning.
Oh, gave the boys a big talk last night on Tuesday, yeah.
I love that.
Don't mind that.
But yeah, we probably are lacking a little bit of depth, Jolie. I think it's probably a bit of an issue, and I think that's probably where we're at. I know in the seniors we're probably lacking a bit of depth where we've sort of had to take a few Rezzies numbers as well. So yeah, definitely. Hopefully that gets better as the next few weeks progress, and obviously we can hopefully sort of get to the bye with another couple of wins off our under our belt. It'll sort of give us a bit of a platform to obviously bounce off as well in that second half of the year.
Well, I feel like we're also coming to that time of the year where Sean Green starts getting the itch again. So
There's been a fair few phone calls and text messages to the big fella, but I don't know if much has been reciprocated yet.
he says that every year, doesn't he? But mind you, you say that every year as well. So I don't know what to believe anymore. Rising Stars men have had a couple of losses over the past kind of week, fortnight or so. Last one being not the last weekend, the weekend before, it was a loss to Tuggeranong, but only kind of less than 50 points. So pretty good marker, pretty good kind of I guess progress happening there. Mick, is that how you see it?
Yeah, it's sort of funny that
Yeah,
I
I have
spoke
said
to
it's 8:23 to
I
something.
spoke to Anthony and a few of the Rising Stars guys, and Yeah, I think they sort of earmarked Tuggeranong as a game that they could have had a fair crack at, and they just didn't really turn up. To be fair, they didn't turn up to play. And last week, although the scoreline obviously a lot bigger against Ainsley, from all reports, the standard of footy was a hell of a lot better, especially in the first half. So they were pretty depleted on numbers last week, just being a Saturday game. And not having obviously access to AFL Sapphire players. So that sort of put them under the pump a little bit. But yeah, the brand of footy was really good. I think they went into half time. I think Ainsley had two extra scoring shots than what the Bay had. But it was just unfortunate that we'd missed our opportunities. But yeah, I think the brand is definitely there, and that was something that I've spoken about to the coaching staff of the Rising Stars. That their brand of footy is good, and it's probably just their execution and probably their decision making at times. But I think the style of footy when they're on, it's looking really positive for the future. That's for sure.
And let's talk briefly about the Rising Stars women as well. Unfortunately, they also had a loss against Tuggeranong, but I
Yep.
mean, I'd imagine they're still probably riding a bit of that high from that first up win that they had, first game for the club. Have you seen much of their footy, and what are you kind of seeing from that team?
Yeah, pretty impressed with them, Jolie. Actually, they're obviously a very new team, and there's a lot of girls there that haven't played too much footy with each other as well. So, I think we probably got to that bit where they won that first game, and we thought, oh, geez, here we go. But then now that they've a few games in, you can sort of see not cracks, but that they're probably still got a lot of things to work on, and don't get me wrong, they've still got a very, very good team, and I'd still be backing them in to play finals footy this year. But for them, it's probably the depth as well is probably an issue. They're a few short as well in their depth, but they're no doubt their best sort of 16 is pretty handy. So Nazi's, yeah, working them pretty well at the moment, and they've got a little string of away games, much like the seniors do. So it's just getting through that patch, and hopefully they can jag, one or two wins out of that, and yeah, get themselves in a sort of a good position come toward the second half of the season as well.
Yeah, Taylor, I wanted to ask you a question about this team. Obviously, you are playing senior women's footy, and you probably didn't have the same opportunities coming through the junior ranks as yourself. It must excite you as someone who you're still pretty young yourself as well, but it must really excite you to see these younger girls really getting a really solid kind of pathway through to the senior team like this.
Oh, 100%. I didn't come through footy, so I'm sort of new to footy. But from a female athletics perspective, I used to play cricket and I went all the way through the boys' league. And if you want to play girls' comp, you have to travel for it. So I used to come to Canberra every weekend. So having a team in the Bay for those girls to jump into is incredible, and they're going to thrive in it.
Yeah, no, it's been an amazing set for the club, but I feel like we've spoken about that at length on this podcast. So
It's true.
it is true. You're right. Hey Mick, let's give Women's Day one more plug before we move on as well.
Yep.
That's 2 weeks away now.
Yeah, it is, mate. It's creeping up. So it's our next home game on the 31st of May, Saturday the 31st of May against ANU. So yeah, we'll do the day will sort of operate a little bit different, I guess, to a normal home game. So the Rezzies will kick off the day at 10 o'clock, and then we'll have the women's fixture at 12, and then the senior men at 2. So yeah, there's still plenty of tickets available for that as well. Obviously, many thanks to Christine Ewan, my agent, for jumping on board to sponsor that event. But yeah, if you want to be a part of that, it's $25 a ticket. Gets you a spot upstairs in the VIP balcony with some nibbles and a few free glasses of wine, and yeah, it should be a great afternoon up there. So tickets are on social. So if you get on Facebook, Instagram, you'll see that.
And Taya, how will that change things for you having to play at midday rather than 10? Do you think that's going to affect the team too much?
I
And
don't.
and sorry, and follow up question: will you be rubbing it in the reserve grades face that you're more important than them on that day?
I think they already know that.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
But I think for the team, it won't change too much. It might change my routines a little bit because I'm a bit funny about that stuff. But I think as a group, I think it'll be great. The girls will go get there, show up, and we'll be able to put on a bit of a show for all the ladies.
Yeah, it's going to be a brilliant day, Mick. Let's move into the next part of the podcast. You might remember last season we played around a little bit with some fun stuff in the middle of the show, and we're going to bring that back now that we're hopefully spending less time on the boring stuff like Mick not being the best player in reserve grade or anything like that. Tayah, I have taken the liberty of going back through your illustrious senior career and finding your first game, which, according to the AFL Canberra website, was in round 3, 2021 against Belconnen. We're going to put you on the spot a bit here. I want you to try and name for me as many of the players that you played with on that day as you possibly can.
Here we go.
Who did Tayah Hancock play with in her debut senior game?
Oh no. There would have been Fergs, Gabby,
Yep.
Ali Ryan, Ali Thompson, Amanda Freer. Who else?
I
Linda?
don't think Amanda played that day. No.
She's on the OG team. Was Lisa playing?
Lisa. Yep, Lisa was playing that day. Well done.
Who else would have been on that?
I've lost count already, Mick, so you're going to have to help me out here, mate.
I think
That was me.
I think that's 5 or 6. Yeah, maybe 7.
Who else? That's a long time ago.
That's true.
Let alone the people on the field. Carmen would have been there.
Carmen. Yep, that's another one.
This is actually hard.
I can respect the fact that I'm sure your first game probably flew by. Given, I'd imagine there's been quite a bit of nerves, and you may or may not have admitted to us before the podcast that you kind of didn't know what you were doing that day, but so just a bit of chaos.
I can tell you that it was like hey, you can run. I was like, yeah, coach. And it was like, hey, go kids. I was like, sick. What do I do? Just get the ball. Sick.
Yeah. That's basically footy, isn't it, Mick?
Who was the coach then, Tay?
Who
Was
was
that
the coach?
Mick Alves then?
No, it was Aaron.
Aaron, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Aaron, okay.
He put his faith in me and I just, did my job. I just did it.
Look, for your benefit, Tayah, let me read out the team list for that day. All right, you had a 7-13-55 to 1-1-7 win over Belconnen, so that was the result of the game. So you had a win first up. Here's your team list. You got Gabby Johnson, Linda Byrne, Ali Ryan, Alison Matthew, Claudia Ferguson, Matilda O'Brien.
Oh, yep.
Roslyn Hurt, Ali Thompson.
Yeah.
Sophie Alves.
Oh, of course, Sophie.
Yeah, Carmen, you got. Gemma Green played that day.
Yeah, I remember when she broke her finger.
Tabitha Beauchamp or Beecham probably. Tabitha Beecham. Yep. Yourself, obviously. Shannon White.
Oh, of course, Shannon.
Samantha Law.
Mm-hmm.
Claudia Hannon.
Oh, I thought she was too young. I did think of her.
Laura Alves played that day.
Oh, all the Alves probably.
Two of them. You got Lisa Absalon and Elizabeth Byron also played that day. So that was your team list for your debut. So I feel like you're probably going to have to do some explaining when you see the girls on Saturday. But I'm gonna leave that with you, Tayah. But hey, I mean, how old were you in 2021, if you don't mind me asking?
Not even 19, probably 18.
Yeah, so you're still basically a child.
Yeah.
Playing your first senior game, full of chaos. I do not blame you at all for not getting the full team list. I reckon if I asked Mick the same question, who do you play? Who were his teammates in his first senior game? He would. Would you get a big fat donut? You reckon, Mick?
Now we're going back in time, mate.
Yeah, you may not know this, Tayah, but people did play footy back before the year 2000. So
that's about 22 years ago.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, let's get into the more serious part of the podcast. Although I don't think any part of this podcast is serious, Mick. Let's be honest. We're going to put Tayah under the spotlight again, but this time it's the interview part of the podcast. So we'll just be asking you some questions about your history at the footy club, your history with sport in general. But first of all, Mick's got his list of very special questions. I hope.
I do, yeah.
Yeah, good
Yep.
man.
I
So this,
I went to give Taya a heads up, and she's all over it. She's been doing her homework. She said.
Mick, you don't even get it. I listened to like I reckon 5 hours straight of Hawk Talk.
Oh,
I was
I
just
love that.
every time I was in the car, everyone that got in the car was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Guys,
I think I think Tayah might be my favorite guest so far. Mate.
Yeah. I was wondering who was getting all our listens up on Spotify, and now I
I
know who
got
it is.
episode cool, guys. I want this."
We appreciate that. All right, Mick. I'll
Righto.
hand. You've got the floor,
Question
mate.
number one, Taya. Your favourite Seahawks teammate?
This one was quite tricky because I know I'm gonna if I say the wrong thing, Claire's gonna get me. Even though, but I'm gonna justify this with probably Shannon because she challenges my thinking towards footy and she pushes me quite significantly to do my best and try new things. So I would say Shannon. Sorry, Claire. We used to be roommates. But for the purpose of learning, it's Shannon.
Nice. Very good. Strangest food combination?
This one I also had to think about because I've got a few weird ones. I put it down to a vote for my roommates, and it is I have wheat bix with butter and Vegemite, like dry wheat bix,
Yeah, that's all right.
No, that's all
with
right.
a cup of tea. They told me that was weird.
No, that's a thing.
My
Said,
first
That's
my
a thing.
first thought was like with milk. That's gross.
no, not milk.
Yeah.
Question number three, Tay, is your go-to karaoke song?
I was thinking probably ABBA, something ABBA.
ABBA. I could see that. I
Bit of
reckon.
a
Bit of
classic.
ABBA. Number four, if you could travel anywhere in the world, where would it be?
I'd probably go to either Finland because that's where my family's from, or then to Africa and go on safari.
Nice. Number five is the best piece of advice that you've ever received.
Um, Probably don't worry about the things you can't control because I often do worry about it, and that always usually snaps me out of that little spiral.
Yep, that's very good. And last question is, if you had a time machine, and you could go back to any place and time, where would you go?
This one was hard. This was the hardest one because I was like, I don't know. But probably either go back to like 90s or early 2000s, which is only just before I was born, or then go back to like an Eminem concert when he was in his prime.
It's not a bad answer. I don't
Yeah.
mind that.
I like
I don't
that.
mind that. Mate, that must. I mean, I know it killed me hearing someone saying that the '90s were before they were born. But mate, you were a teenager in the '90s, weren't you?
I was, yeah, I was carving it up in the 90s.
You're surrounded by two old men, Taylor. That's the point. Hey, I reckon your questions this year are a hit, Mick.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yep.
I think you've upped yourself there.
Getting some good feedback, Jolie, which is good.
Yeah. Although I'm still waiting to hear like a really weird food combination.
Yeah, to be fair, I thought Tay was going to unload with one for us tonight.
Well,
Yeah.
everyone tells me that's weird. I had some other ones on the list, but that
Yeah.
was the top contender. And I was like, not weird, guys. And they're like, yeah, it is.
See, I think I made this. I think I made this admission to you in before a previous podcast. But mine is peanut butter and tomato sauce on
Yeah.
Ooh,
on toast.
Yeah, that's gross.
It is.
that's
Look, you
that's something
can
else.
you can judge it all you want, Mick, but I'm saying it in a public sphere, so I'm proud of it. Hey, Taylor, let's talk about you a little bit here. I remember moving to the Batemans Bay in 2017, and then covering quite a bit of the cricket season that year as part of the Bay Post, and I kept seeing this name, Tayah Hancock, absolutely dominating all the junior grades at the time. You mentioned earlier that you came through cricket. When did you start kind of being interested in being part of sport in general, but cricket in particular? When was that?
I think sport was always a thing in my family because my dad's very sporty. I think I started in cricket maybe late primary school, um, because they needed numbers. So I was like, yeah, okay, why not? And then I just sort of stuck it out. Well, I just not stuck it out. I did do it because I enjoyed it. um, but I was then with it until the end of high school. So I was with it for a very long time.
Because I remember your name coming up in a lot of, I'd get press releases from like, the local cricket bodies, and you'd be making all these rep teams and be scoring, big scores in your weekly games for the juniors. Um, you mentioned that you eventually had to move on to playing in Canberra when you wanted to play against, other girls, but it, it seemed like you were holding your own pretty well against the boys.
Some would say that, yes. Yeah, so I was making a lot of rep teams, but that did involve lots of travel. So, like you said, I was coming to Canberra, but I was also like shooting up and down the coast every weekend. So, mum and dad were really good at driving me everywhere for that sort of stuff. I did eventually go back to men's cricket, which was interesting. I They're both really good. I enjoyed both of them. My men's experience and all through my junior years, really good. Loved it. Like you said, I sort of kept up most of the time, and then I eventually moved on and came up to Canberra for a bit more competition against, I guess, females, which was interesting.
Yeah. So when did you move to Canberra, Taya? Because you're now living in Canberra. That's correct.
Yeah, yeah. I
What
now live
was
in.
that? Was that for university?
Yes, it was for university. I've been here since 2022.
Okay. Was there ever a period where you attempted to play for another footy club once you
I've
moved?
definitely had offers from other footy clubs, and there's definitely, well, obviously you get offers and you consider them, but at the end of the day, I couldn't leave the Seahawks. So here we are.
So you're part of the Canberra crew you mentioned before, um, and look, I know for a fact that Josh Visser has tried to take credit for your footy game. Several times he has told me that he is responsible for the way Tayah Hancock plays the game of footy. First of all, do you have a response to that? Because I'm pretty sure Josh probably listens to the podcast. So what do you have to say to Josh about that?
I would say that all of the Canberra boys have definitely contributed to my success in footy. There's a lot of people that are trying to claim
I was going
my
to say Blackers claims it too, I think.
Oh,
a lot of that claim my progress. I think Caden sometimes jumps on that wagon too. So there is a few, but I will say that Visa was a huge help, especially last season. He taught me how to snap. I need him back actually because I need to relearn how to do it. But he was like midfield, I was midfield. He taught me how to get that mongrel. So, you know, he just taught me how to get that dog on the field.
I'm not going to lie. If there was one guy in that team
Still
last year who had
plenty of
mongrel
that.
and dog, it's Josh Visser. Taylor, just for future reference, this is the kind of show where you could have been like, nah, Vis had nothing to do with it. What a muppet!
But he did. I can't lie. They would
Oh,
helped me.
you're letting me down here, Taylor, but that's fine.
Oh yeah, Visa, you suck.
Yes, love it. No, we love you, Vis. Um, so how did that kind of change your outlook on footy once you had to kind of move to Canberra and you were probably traveling a lot more often to come down to the home games and whatnot? How did that kind of change the way you looked at the club and playing the sport in general?
I think that it made me definitely value the club. Like coming up here and not sort of having anyone until I joined the Canberra was very, I guess, isolating. And then as soon as I sort of jumped into that Canberra crew, it was like I had this whole little family that I could access and I got to see every week. So I think if it wasn't for the Canberra crew, I probably would be back in Bateman's Bay. But then traveling home, I don't really mind the traveling at all because I get to go home and see my family. It's a lot warmer on the coast, and I definitely miss that. But definitely value the whole club. I do miss Bateman's Bay trainings, and obviously now being vice captain, I miss being there with the girls and helping them out. But I've got a few girls up here now that I get to look after, which is cool.
Well, I mean, you are the vice captain this season, and I'd imagine that shows that there's a massive trust that the rest of the playing group has in your abilities, not only as a player, as a leader. When did you find out you were going to be a vice captain this season, and kind of what was your reaction to that news?
I found out on the preseason camp day where they just announced the captains and the vice captains to the group. I was very shocked. I remember asking because I was helping Shannon sort of set up for the day, and I was like, Shannon, am I going to be happy with like what, the leadership team? She's like, don't worry, Tayah, don't worry, because we've been in communication and we're always yapping about footy. And she's like, don't worry, Tayah, you're going to be happy. You're going to be happy. I couldn't believe it. I was so shocked. I didn't even know what to say.
Have you found that that has impacted the way you play your footy at all?
I think it's definitely changed some things, but not all things. Like I have always sort of been, I try and get everyone involved, but I definitely more so try and give those opportunities out more frequently now.
Mm.
It's also definitely challenged me with, say, like the locker room talk, and now I actually, like, people come and ask me for advice. I've never had that, so that's different as well, and I can give it, and I've always had the answers, but it's really nice to be able to give it and people listen to it.
Is it
um,
something that you're really enjoying it, Tay? Are you enjoying in being in that leadership role? Is it something that you see yourself doing long term?
Yeah, I love it. I love
Yeah.
it, and I love it with Laura and Emma. We're such a great team, and we've got really good dynamics. I feel like we've got all bases covered with that, so it's really nice. I'm
Yeah.
really enjoying.
um, Taya, from my understanding, your role on the field has changed a little bit this season as well. Not just in the terms of not just in terms of like being a vice captain. You're getting more midfield minutes this season. Um, I look watching you last year. I thought you were one of the best players already. But from what I've heard, because obviously I'm not being able to watch the games anymore. But from what I've heard, your footy has gone to a whole nother level, even in just the small sample size this season. Are you enjoying kind of getting around the footy a little bit more this year?
Yeah, I'm loving it. I always come back because there's little things that I see the boys do, and then I'm like, yeah, watch me. I'm gonna learn this, and I'm gonna do it. And then I go back to training. I'm like, did you see me do this? And they're like, no. I'm like, well, I did it. So I really love it because I get to challenge myself, and that's sort of my thing. I sort of pick something, and then I just try and implement it into the game. So then I am sort of stepping up my game and continuously challenging myself every game.
Yeah. Tell us about the group. What's the group like at the team?
Like my girls, or
Like the
the
players, like just the playing group in general. Is it tight? Are you a really tight knit group when on game days, or does that kind of that divide between the Canberra girls and the Batemans Bay girls make that difficult? Just give us kind of the vibes of the group, I suppose.
I think this year is really good. I think we've all come together really well. I think having me up here with the Canberra girls as a bit of a leadership role has definitely helped bring everyone together. And I'm definitely seeing sort of the Seahawks community on the field now. Everyone's sort of talking, everyone's getting behind each other. We're sharing the ball around a lot more. So it's really good to see. Loving it.
I will say, kind of further into what you said there, Teo. I think anyone who's watched the women's team, and you could probably attest to this as well, Mick, is you can see the development in the game plan from season to season. Obviously, those early teams, they were really good. It was very much about contested footy and just trying to get as much territory as possible. But probably, because it was a bunch of new players and they were probably still working on the skills. And it feels like every year there's more ball movement involved. The
Yeah.
skills are definitely getting better. Are you noticing that, Taya, in the group?
Oh, 100%. Every year we come back stronger, and I think it's just that everyone wants to learn. Like all of the girls we keep, they just want to get better, and they just want to keep getting new skills. Like I know a lot of the girls now. I'm sort of known in our team for bouncing and often stuffing up those bounces. I am getting better though. I'm getting a lot more. Like, I've got some of the girls going, I want to bounce. Like I want to do it. I'm like, go and do it. Like they just want to keep stepping up, and everyone's wanting to step up. And I think that's where we're seeing our progress.
Yeah, okay. Um, Taya, I want to ask you, what's the kind of the number one memory you have of your time playing footy at the Batemans Bay Seahawks? Is there a moment where you're like, yep, that was the pinnacle for me at this club?
I don't know. I mean, we've had big games and big wins, but I don't think that would be my highlight. I think it would be where the club's all together and we're sort of all getting around each other. Like some of those days where we have humongous crowds, they're the best days at footy.
Yep. She's saying all the right things, isn't
Great
she?
answer. Yeah.
How good is this? Hey, Mick, I'll ask you a question because it kind of relates to what Tayah's doing in Canberra this year. It was a very similar setup to what you guys had because obviously you were coaching the boys down in Batemans Bay for a number of years, but you had Nathan Blackburn up in Canberra, kind of leading that Canberra crew. What were the benefits that you found? And I guess kind of what advice could you give Tayah in this situation as to how Nathan conducted himself in what he was doing up with the Canberra crew, and maybe how she could be getting the most out of that crew while she's up there as well.
Yeah, well, I think Tay's obviously been exposed to it. You know, she's been there for a long period of time, and she was there when Nath was obviously taking all the Canberra stuff up there. And there's a lot of guys up there now that are involved that have been there for a long period of time as well. But yeah, it sort of worked. To be fair, it probably saved our footy club. Jolie was the Canberra crew, and there was times when I first took over in 2016 and, we were just wondering where we were going to get players from. And, Vis was the one then who started the Canberra crew back in 2016. And I think we started then with only 6 players. And then to now, last year it was crazy numbers from up in Canberra. So I'm not too sure. I think we've dropped a little bit this year, but I think for me as a coach, it was really good having Nath there as an assistant coach because I think a lot of the guys that were Canberra based, they sort of felt that they could probably lean on him a little bit more and probably had a bit better relationship with him than not that I didn't have good relationships with him, but it was more so that he was, seeing them 3 times a week. And I guess they were a little bit less on numbers than what we have at Batemans Bay. So their trainings are a lot more tight knit. So they sort of have opportunities to ask questions and query stuff a bit more. So it definitely worked for us, over that period of time. And like I say, our numbers have probably dropped a bit, especially our first grade numbers now up in Canberra. But yeah, I think obviously having Tay there now as a leader in the women's space, I think she's obviously the eyes and the ears up there in Canberra, and with the direction that we're looking to go in the footy club next year, which hopefully we can talk about in depth the next couple of weeks, Jolie. But I
No,
won't
no,
give anything away.
no spoilers.
Eyebrow
No
raise.
spoilers.
But yeah, obviously having Tay there, and we want to make that Canberra crew up there a big part of our football club moving forward as well. So
Yeah. Tayah, what other numbers up in Canberra like this season?
I think we've got. I think we've got close to 30, but we don't get that many to training.
Like
We
it's like reserve grade training.
Yeah, except it's like a big mix of everyone.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
great. We sort of have a pretty consistent group of about maybe 12 that come. On a good day, we get 20.
Okay. And how many girls are there up there training with you?
I have 3 girls
Three.
plus myself, so there's 4 of
So
us.
4. Okay. So do you get the opportunity to kind of train with the men, or do you often go off and do your own thing?
No, we do all our training with the men. So everything that we do is together.
What benefits do you think that has had for your game, Tayah?
Oh, it's been crazy. Like I go on the field and I feel so much more confident.
Mm.
Like the boys at training, I know they're not going to hurt me, but just their presence, like I know that they could hurt me, and that makes me work hard.
I will say I think I was saying to Mick before you joined. You play footy the right way. From what I could see last season, you're always going hard at the ball. You're always willing to do those 1%ers like a Shepherd or like a smother or something like that. You're always willing to kind of dig deep and do those kind of unpopular things on the field that some players don't really want to get their knees dirty, so to speak. Do you think that is partly because you've watched guys like Vis, like Blackers, like the Armadillo, that kind of thing?
Oh, 100%. They're all my role models. Like I take bits of all of their games and I've just made like a big Frankenstein game and made it my own. So definitely, I take inspiration from all of them, and especially watching the senior men's and the resis, I learned so much with just the way you guys do it.
Man, it's nice that Vis actually has someone who looks up to him as a role model, eh?
Someone has to.
He'll be loving this. He'll watch this on repeat. This
Yeah, I
podcast.
know. That's where all the views will come from, eh? Look, Tayah, it was it was fantastic watching the women's team last year. I'm very sad that I haven't been able to watch any footy this year, obviously. But what is you were such a good team last year, and like you were premiership level. It just obviously didn't happen on the day. How are you feeling about the team's chances this year? And I know we spoke earlier about the fact that that's not your ultimate goal, but do you think this is a team that's good enough to play finals first of all, and to potentially go on a run?
I think with the team that we've got now, with the attitudes that everyone has, it's definitely possible. If we keep going and we keep working the way we do, I feel like it's definitely in the cards for us this year.
Yep. And how has Kim kind of approached it? Because we've spoken to Mick on this podcast about how he has approached the kind of last year and how last year's season ended. How has Kim approached it? Has it been kind of similar to Mick in not trying to focus on it too much, or what's he done?
Yeah, very similar approach. Just I think last year it was very heavily focused on getting to that final because of the previous year we had lost the final. So last year's goal was purely getting to that final, and we did everything we could to get to that final. And then ultimately we got there and it didn't turn out the way we wanted it to. So I think this year Kim's sort of taken the approach of let's build all of these little fundamental skills and then we're going to do something awesome with it.
Now, final question for me, Tayah, and this is a very important one. You've played cricket, you've played footy. What's your number one sport?
Oh, I would say at the moment it's probably footy.
Good answer.
She's
I think
answered the questions very well.
I think Mick would have rage quit if he said cricket, so it's probably
yeah. I couldn't take that risk.
Good stuff. Hey, thank you so much for coming on, Tayah. It's been great to pick your brain and kind of get some views on how you view the footy club and how how you feel the team's going, and I guess a bit of a deeper dive into what makes you tick. So I hope you had fun.
So much fun. I've been so excited.
We're not too scary, are we?
No, definitely not.
I think. Look,
you haven't said anything about my backdrop, Jolie.
Mate, how good is that backdrop? I did notice it before, but I think Tayah was in the middle of a very important point, so I couldn't interrupt her.
I noticed too. It's full on.
Well, look, if I had those two premiers posters as well, they'd be on my wall. But you're just getting my blank bedroom wall at the moment. That's all you get from me.
Yeah, so Sophie loves my footy stuff hanging around the house.
Well, is it everywhere or is it just in one space?
I try to have it everywhere, Tay, but she wants it just in the garage, but it miraculously just makes its way in the lounge room every now and then.
What you need to do, Mick, is say, yeah, this is my footy spot, and then just like something comes out and goes somewhere, and just leave it for a couple of weeks, and then another thing comes out, and then she just won't notice, and all of a sudden it's just a Seahawks house.
She's not going to fall
for that. Would you fall for that, Tayah?
No.
Okay, good.
No
good to know.
Way for that. It'd be gone like minutes after.
Tell us about those posters, Mick. Who was the designer behind those?
Nazi actually got them done. So they're from a company in Victoria. They do the cartoon premiership posters. So like the ones they do obviously in the Herald Sun for the AFL team. So I've got the 2018 and the 2023 there. So
mate, they look amazing.
They do.
And look, let's hope
it's pretty there in the garage getting dust all over them.
let's hope next year you got another poster to add to that collection. Although we'll need to make your screen a bit wider if that happens, because you're kind of cutting one of them off, but it's fine. Hey, I think that's it from us tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks so much for listening. Once again, Tayah Hancock was our guest, and she did a fantastic job. Mick was pretty good. I could probably lift my game, but we'll get there eventually. But thank you, and we'll see you next week.
Beautiful.
Thanks,
Thanks,
guys.
Tay. Thanks, Jolly.